my grandfather, my granddad Doherty, was a great man for Parnell.
Right.
And in the course of his business, he was in Sligo one time. And Parnell was having a big meeting in Sligo. And your man met him, went up and met him, shook hands with him.
Right.
And there was a paper came out, an anti-British paper came out at that particular time. And he bought the paper in Sligo. And immediately the paper was they were decommissioned and they were all withdrawn. But he had one of the only, I can't remember the name of the paper or anything like that.
Right.
But they were absolutely far more political than my father's company were.
Have you ever heard the story about Joe Golly in Teelan?
Mm.
Joe showed me an article out of the London Times from 1918 or something, somewhere around there, about a disturbance in Carrick, and the constabulary were sent in from Killybegs, but they were stopped at the top of Avon with a young woman firing stones at them. And this is reported in the Times.
Oh yeah.
And Joe showed me the article. Joe was big in history. Joe showed me the article, and he whispered at me, "I think that was your Auntie Kay."
I wouldn't put it past him.
But it was. I thought it funny that Joe whispered in case anybody would hear.
Yeah.
100 years
That's
ago.
very good. No, I didn't hear that one. But she was notorious, like as a politician. As far as politics was concerned, she was absolutely over the top altogether. The time of the Black and Tans, I mean, they were living up in a big house in Carrick, up the back lane. Johnny Ann's, we used to call it.
Right.
They must have had rooms in Johnny Ann's at the time.
Right.
But they were keeping guns for somebody. And whatever they were transporting the guns, or they had them to give out to people or to whoever. They were left in their charge, let's say. But somebody saw the Black and Tans coming up, and Auntie Kate just threw them into the oven. and the Tans came in, they searched everywhere. And she says, "Well, why don't you just look in the oven?" She says, "That's one place they didn't look yet." And I did on. But Auntie Kay was a character.
You were talking about her wedding there.
Jim and myself, your father and myself, were invited out to the wedding. She had been living in. She was a nurse, and she was in London all during the war. And when she came back, she was living herself and Uncle Francis. No, he was away too for a while in England. But eventually they all came back to the house. And she got married then to Paddy Carr, who lived just within 3 miles of the house. But we were all invited out to the wedding. And we went out with Paddy Cassidy. Used to have a taxi at the time, so we were all heaved into this taxi and went out to Bavon. And the reception was to be held in the house. There was no hotels or restaurants in them days.
There was a wedding in Kilcar.
The wedding was in Kilcar. But when it came time to go to the church, there was no room for Jim or myself. And Steve McTague was in from Carrickatucket as well. So there was a lot of preparation had to be done. All the local women were in, and we had myself and Jim and Steve had to peel the whole sugar spuds. We were sick looking at them. And Miss Mary Donald Kerr lived close to us, and she was one of them characters. You get one of them in every town where she was an old spinster, and she spoke with a kind of a lisp. She was very funny. She wasn't funny, but we used to make fun of her. But she was put in charge of this detail of getting the spuds right, and she would come. should examine every spud to make sure there are no black spots. And we used to talk about that for years later. I remember meeting Steve in Washington one time when we went in for lunch somewhere, and Steve says to me, "Better watch, no black spots in the spud." But anyway, it was a great night altogether. Then I had a big night out. There was chicken out. There's chicken. There was all kinds of goodies for dinner, and then there was crates of stout and bottles of lemonade, and myself and Jim were running about all night. And then about 4 or 5 fiddlers appeared. Haggerty Brothers, and started playing up. There was a dance and out and in the hallway and everything. But then there was a kind of a concert where everybody had to sing a couple of songs. So Auntie Kay sang. She was a lovely singer. She sang a song called Bantry Bay. Bantry Bay. She was notorious for singing that. But myself and Jim tried to hide, but and eventually, no, we were rooted out, and we had to do our party piece. And we were put standing up on a chair. And what song did we sing? I'll give you one guess.
Danny Boy.
Danny Boy.
Had to be.
We got past the first verse all right, but the second verse we got stuck in it, and oh my God, the two of us we were really ignominiously packed away because we didn't come up to scratch with the entertainment business. But it was really funny then. The fiddlers were drinking away all night, and they were all getting full, and they were staggering all over the place. And the next thing, one of them got up to go out somewhere, out to relieve himself somewhere. And Christ, he went missing. They couldn't find him anywhere. In the end, somebody walked across the road. There was a big shock out on the other side of the road. And there your man was lying in the shock. And he was covered with rubric, you know that. And he came back into the house and he was covered with all kinds of beetles, and they had to get, I remember them, they had to wash his face and his head and everything. Thank God he recovered and he reached for the fiddle again. He played away till morning. But we didn't, I remember coming across Bugger. It was 7 o'clock in the morning when we came back. And Jim and myself, your father and myself, didn't go to school that day, so we got 2 days out of it.
For one verse of Danny Boy. And a lot of spuds.
God, it was funny.
That house in Bavin, was that the old house that it was sinking or something?
It was sinking, yeah.
But that was the house where the wedding would have been?
That's the house where the wedding
was.
It was a lovely big house.
I've seen pictures of that.
Have you?
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, Auntie Kay sang at our wedding too.
Did she?
She did. I had pictures of Auntie Kay. Of course, Enda was master of ceremonies.
Oh, yes.
And Auntie Kay up on stage, and she sang. And then my Auntie Lizzie got up. Do you remember Lizzie from Duncanelli?
Oh, yeah.
My mother's auntie. And she got up. Now, Auntie Lizzie and Auntie Kay were about the same age.
Mm.
But Auntie Kay was like, she was there howling this out woman up on stage so she could sing.
Oh, yeah. That'd be all right.
Auntie Kay, the arm around her and holding the mic for her so she could sing a song, you know. But that was a beautiful house. I've seen a very modern looking house. Now,
it was.
Now.
It was a double fronted house. And there was a big bay window in the middle of it. Mm. And on one side, there was those climbing roses, red on one side and white on the other side. It was gorgeous looking at it. And this beautiful lane straight in front of it, you know. And the bay window was always full of flowers, and Auntie Kay would have all, you know. And then you came in, the first thing, the smell of flowers inside in the house.
Right.
Concrete floors. And I guess there must have been 4 or 5 bedrooms in it.
Right.
Big kitchen and a wee pantry at the back of the kitchen. We used to have, they used to keep cattle and all, cows and all, and it would be churning. I remember when they had in the back kitchen, back pantry, it was very cool. It's kind of a nice house, but everything was put in there. The foodstuffs was kept in there. And there was these huge big basins where they kept put the milk in to gather the cream. And they were crockery, like they were weighed a ton. And you had to carefully transfer the cream into a jug, and then you kept that until you had enough to do a churning.
Right.
But remember one day we were on, Auntie Mary and myself and Jim were on this big thing, and the cream wasn't coming off it right, and Auntie Mary started to blow on it. Blowing away the thing. And the next thing we heard was these 2 plops. Like the dead man's plunge. Clink, clink. Her teeth. Her teeth landed in the middle of the cream. Poor Auntie Mary. I'm getting like her now. She was very deaf.
Right.
She used to wear this hearing aid. Is it a big thing here in front of her? She'd kind of hold it out and you talked into it. It used to squeal like. God, we were bad. We used to laugh away at all this squealing. It was like trying
Feedback?
it was like trying to tune into the old radios, Every time poor Auntie Mary would switch this on. I spent a year in Dublin and I stayed with her. We mentioned before about her politics, how political she was. But there was about 6 or 7 staying, and there was a fella from Mount Charles was staying with us, and Francis Maloney was driving the bus there at the time. He was from Carrick. And of course we were all Fianna Fáil. Auntie Kay was absolutely over the top as a Fianna Fáil supporter. As I said before to somebody, you'd have to know her at least 10 minutes before you knew which side of the fence she was on. But this election was coming up anyway, for the Dáil. And she was out night and day working, canvassing for the TD in this section of Dublin was, he was a minister for defence he was. I know his name it'll come to me later on. But Auntie Kay was doing everything out every night and going to all these meetings and everything. And the day that the fella from Mount Charles, he was a wild Fine Gael man. So she was saying to Francis and myself, "Did you vote yet?" She kept on asking, "Did you vote yet?"
You were saying Minister for Defence.
Making sure that we voted in time and all the rest of it. And we were sitting there the night before, and she was talking about the voting and how it would go and everything, and would De Valera get in. And I said to her, it's no use in me voting. This other boy will be voting Fine Gael, so they're not gaining much by us being living here.
He'll counter your vote.
He won't be voting Fine Gael, she says. I says, "What do you mean?" She says, "He has no voting papers." What happened then? "I burned them."
She was a real activist.
She knew the voting papers came on, or whatever you call them, came round, and we got ours, but your man's was born. But eventually then Francis and myself went down, and we did vote. We went down to the pub, down to the bottom of the street, and we were coming back we were just coming out of the pub, and the next thing, didn't we meet Auntie Kay? And she was up to 100, she was just full of excitement. And did you vote? And we voted. Are you sure you voted the right way? Blah, blah, blah. I said, we did, surely. And the next thing, this big state car pulls up beside us. And out came this boy, the minister himself. And Auntie Kay nearly genuflected in front of him. She went over and she said, what was he? But anyway, Kathleen, he says, how are you getting on? She says, are things going well? Oh, they're going great. Did you vote yet, Kathleen? He says. I did, she says. 15 times. This is what she was doing, going round from one centre to the other. And the Fianna Fáil boys would say, nobody voted this. Would you go in and vote for this woman, or didn't turn up? And this is what she did. I always used to tell this story to people, and it must have been the most extreme Fianna Fáil thing ever was done. And Paddy or somebody told me this one, you probably know it. That after they left Dublin, and they were living up on Cranchaw in the middle of nowhere, and another election comes round, and this woman had moved in across the road from her. They were great neighbours and all, and this one wanted to rear a clutch of chickens, so she asked Kathleen, could she borrow? That's what they used to do, you borrowed a clock and hen from your neighbour, and she would clock on the eggs until the chickens came out. But there was no word about politics at all at this stage. But on the morning of the election, she looked out the window, and wasn't the Fine Gael car outside? E.O. Gara's car was outside, and your woman was getting into the car. And she said to herself, do you know what she did? She went over and lifted the bloody hen off the eggs and put it back into her own hen house. There was no Fine Gael. Her house wasn't going to have a Fine Gael chicken. I don't know if that's true or not, strictly speaking. But I would believe it of her, But she was funny.
And when she had the house, well, it was like a boarding house, I suppose. There were long-term stays in the place in Dublin, was it?
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't like what we think of a B&B now, people coming for one night at a stand time, was it?
Yeah, no. It was a lodging house more than a B&B house.
And what did Paddy do did he work in Dublin at that stage? Or did Paddy, her husband, did he work in...
He worked with the corporation. He was labouring with the corporation.
Right.
Paddy went down to work the first day. He was working on a building site. And the boys came up to him and told him that he was working too hard. He was showing them all up. He was Donegal man, just got dug in what had to be done, and he does it,
Right.
But this wasn't the Dubs didn't like this.
No.
So he was warned, take it easy. He was a nice man, very civil man. That's what he was told.
And he passed away the same day as Granda. He passed away the same day as Granda.
That's right. Now, I carried the two coffins the same day, my father.
Right.
And I went out, carried Paddy's coffin to the graveyard in Kilcar. But the weird thing about it was that when my father died, somebody went out to Balvin to tell Auntie Kay. And at the same time, there was somebody coming in from Bavin to tell us about Paddy passing away. It was weird, wasn't it? Because the two men had nothing in common at all, you know.
Yeah.
Like my father being a lot older than Paddy.
I always thought it funny talking to my dad that when you all grew up, Dad didn't go to school, didn't go off to secondary school like the rest of us. And did you think anything of that, or?
No. Your father, you see, had very bad ears at that time,
right?
And he was always getting sick. Could never understand that. Funny enough, now, my mother petted him, you see. Right. Oh no, Jim can't do this and Jim can't do that. But it would be a running sore in his ear and stuff like that, and he'd have headaches and stuff. He was termed at the time, they would say he was delicate. He'd catch colds and I wouldn't catch them. Right. You know? And he would have bad stomach and stuff like that, you know.
Was he ever diagnosed with anything, or no?
Oh, you never went to a doctor.
All right.
No, you never went to a doctor. But Mammy wouldn't let him. He did the exam and all, but Mammy said no, he wasn't going to go away. He wouldn't let him away. But we were all in the lucky bastard. We had to go away. Oh, Jesus Christ, and I used to be as mad as hell. Man, Jim's way driving the lorry. But Jim had a completely different outlook on life than most of them, you know.
Yeah.
He was very sassy kind of a fella, you know. Nothing was too much bother for him and stuff like that, you know. But he was never into the reading or anything like that very much, you know. But a lot of yarns, and like he knew everything that was going on. He had made a great spy.
But you were away from Carrick then for
I was away,
a long time.
To be honest with you, I've been away from Carrick since I was 14 years of age.
Right.
Because once you go away, you never go back.
Right.
You know, people are growing up, you come home, you don't know them.
Yeah.
Over the years, you just recognise them. Well, that's one of them Teelan fellas, you know. You never got to know their names. I used to laugh at yourself and your mother and father in the room, in the kitchen. They knew everybody. Like your mother knew them better than your father.
Mm.
But they'd be talking away about these boys, you know. They'd look out and they say, there's Jim Mandy. What's Jim Mandy doing up here on Tuesday or something like that, you know. They knew every move that everybody was making. And I'd be laughing away at them, you know. God, you must have wild, exciting life in Kerry. Your mother taught me or something. And funny enough, now we're in the exact same position here, myself and Margaret. Ours is the only kitchen that you can see out of, you know. Right. We can see every move that's made here, you know. But we start making fun of it, you know. Margaret will say to me, what did they get the other day? You know, you see a van pulling up, and I'll say, no, they never told me, they were hiding it. But we, you know, at our age, we do quite very much, you know.
Yeah. But when you left Carrick, you went to St. Eunan's, was it?
St. Eunan's, yeah.
And did you, I thought it was Margaret at the back there. I was thinking she's at both windows at the one time. But when you went to St. Eunan's then, where did you go? Like, I don't know much about your life other than, like, where did you go from? I know you were in America for a long time.
I went to America. I went to Galway, I went to the UCD for a year, and I went to UCG for a year.
Right.
It was me that discovered the term dropout. I can't explain it, but the 50s, I was involved, you see, I wasn't involved in it, but I was caught up in the strike in Letterkenny. The strike of the students.
Right.
Way back in the 50s.
Strike
Did you
for
ever
what?
hear about
No.
that?
No.
Oh, Jesus, it was I think it was the month of November. There was a whole lot of stuff going on. There was a new dean came into college, and he was a dean for a good while, you know, and he was only a fresher in Maynooth. He wasn't. There were some of the boys that all looked older than him, you know, and he was a real hail fellow, well met, and everybody was treating him, you know, like an equal. But the next thing he got some kind of promotion, and he started a big. Apparently, some of the boys used to go out to see the girls, you know, outside, have chats and all the rest of them. But he got wind of this, and he went round and he started searching people's pockets and wallets and stuff like that when they weren't in the room, and brought all this stuff up. And the boys had a big meeting, and they said there was a whole lot of things. It wasn't just that. He was clamping down, but he was using information that the boys had given him when he was dean, and they wanted him sacked, or they wanted something. But we all walked out one night in formation. We walked away out to the O'Donnell Park, and we slept in the O'Donnell Park that night. In the changing rooms, and we all went home. And we weren't going to come back until our demands were met. Now, I would have been 4th year at the time. And it was the 5th year boys were really it started the whole thing. And I never really approved of it, but I wasn't going to let the old side down. So we went home, and my father, Connell Lady, as they call him, he was a prefect at the time, and fair play to him, he came out. And we all landed back home, and the parents then had meetings and all, and they were in touch with the college. And eventually, anyone went back with our tail between our legs. But it affected me. It affected me very badly. We were gated for the rest of the year. We couldn't go out to town or anything. And there were no movies, no. It was awful, just, you know. At that time, the food and everything in the college was awful and that sort of stuff. But it was the way we were treated after we went back. We were made to feel complete non-entities, you know. I swear now that maybe there might have been 2 teachers at that college, if I met them outside, would have known my name, you know.
Right.
There was no connection at all, no talk, no nothing. No advice about what you should do or anything. So... and
it was a good experience up until then as the school?
No, it was awful.
Was it?
It was terrible, yeah. But I decided then that after my 4th year, I did matriculation. I passed the matric. And instead of waiting for the 5th year, I left after 4 years.
Right.
But the 50s, I just dread to even think of them.
Right.
I can't understand my own. I can't understand where I was at, or I can't understand why you did this, that, and the other thing. I was kind of traumatized, really, you know, before that word was thought about. And I went through life, had no ambition, no nothing. I just do more or less what was told. This is maybe getting too personal.
But at the time you were in Letterkenny, was your father was building around Letterkenny at that stage?
Oh, he was, sure. He was very well known around Letterkenny. He had, my nickname was Mixer.
Right.
Because of the connections with the building industry.
You know?
Well, that was the thing about it. Everything they did was 100%.
Yeah.
Everything was adhered to, like the Bible. Uncle Eddie would be foreman on a job there, and there was a bill of quantities and all that things. And if it said 1 bag of cement to so many bags of sand, that was the way it was put on. And nothing was ever spared. And my father would never. I remember one time I was working in a place in Falkirk, and my father used to go around all the jobs, you know. He'd land there on a certain day. And you just wander around to have a look at things. And there was this wall was built between 2 houses. And it fell a couple of times, the wind. And it was built up just the day before he came back, and before he made his call. And he called Eddie over and he said, knock that down, build it again. And Eddie said, no, it's not all right, he said. And he pointed out a few things. Apparently this was like himself, and they would come into a house and everything. They would have everything sized up, you know. Paddy was good at this too. Paddy could tell you the size of a window without measuring it, all that kind of stuff, you know. But I remember one time when I had a restaurant in Carndonagh, I had to get a heavy duty electricity put on to work the cookers. And I had to go to the ESB offices in Letterkenny. And then I asked to see the boss. And I was sent up, now you have to see Brendan about that. And it was Brendan Boyle. I was at college with him. And I sat down there and we chatted away for a long time. And he was talking about the building that we were in. He said, your father built the old one, and this fella, Micheal, built the new part. And he says, come here, do you see this? So he took me way up to the roof. And the old part, the roof was absolutely perfect. And the new part was all bubbles and everything like that. And he said, your father always has a great reputation in the building game. And he says, this is the living proof of it here. It was just unbelievable. If you'd have seen that workshop now, they had everything in it. You know, like there was a room, and there was nothing in it but nails.
Right.
And there was kind of shelving off, and these would be 6-inch nails, 5-inch nails, all the different types of nails. And then there was a paint shop, and there was a glass shop, and there was so much stock, you know, like flooring, timber, big things of timber. I remember during the war, the big logs coming in, we washed ashore, and they come in and behind Slave Lake and Mallinbeg and places like this. My father bought all that stuff from the fishermen that rescued it. They'd be huge. I remember now they'd be cutting that big saw you're talking about was just inside the door, maybe it was far from that to there. But to get this saw to cut it, 4 men would have to come along with their shoulders, carrying it on their shoulders, and man pushing it on. There would be about maybe 15 inches square, you know. The best of...
Was this coming off boats?
Coming off boats.
These are boats that were
torpedoed. Yeah. I remember now Uncle Eddie telling me one time, they built a house in Mallinbeg for James John McGinley. He was an ex-light keeper. Yeah. That big house.
I know the house, the first big house on the left there.
Aye. When Eddie was saying one day they were putting the roof on that house, and they looked out, and the whole place was a sea of timber being washed in the shore.
Right.
And the only one that would make any use of it was my father or the workshop.
And did the local fishermen just go out and pull it in, or did it just get washed
They
up?
were going and put it.
They knew it had value, they would take it in.
Oh, they would surely, yeah. But we had to go in and collect it. Francis Frank was telling me one time, that when he was very young. Now, what age would Francis have been? Maybe 16 or 17. He was sent in with the Dawn into Perth one day to take in this big log. And he said that they had to get cross things, carry it up for them, carrying it up and put it onto the lorry then. Francis was saying that he remembers there was a house in Perth at the time. You know, Perth is all bollocks now. But he was telling about what the things he remembered about the lovely dresser that was in and everything shining.
You mentioned the Dawn. Who's the Dawn?
Oh, the Dawn was a driver.
It's not Johnny Doherty, no?
Johnny Doherty.
Oh, Johnny?
Ah.
Right.
They used to call him the Dawn. At that time, there was a very famous racing driver called K. Dawn. And Johnny was only driver in the town at the time, you know. Everybody in Carrick had learned to drive, learned it from the Dawn. But he would write a book about him on his own. In fact, I just came across something recently about the Dawn. I'll dig it out and give it to you sometime.
Right. I do remember Johnny he used to stand at the corner there, where our house is now, just the corner there.
Yeah.
He used to stand there chatting. And I do remember him at that stage, all right.
You do? Yeah.
I do remember.
He died, my father died before him.
Right.
But the two of them soldiered it together for years and years. Because all the jobs, Johnny used to drive around in the lorry if it was available. Otherwise, Daddy had to take a bus. I can remember, if he'd be going to Letterkenny or somewhere, the first bus was at 6:30 in the morning out of Carrick to Killybegs. And we would have to get up to make his breakfast for him. Get up, throw on the fire and make his breakfast for him. And he took a bus to Killybegs, then he took the train just to Norler, And he spent the whole week going round buses and trains, and he must have an awful life of it, you know. And everything was in there. Everything about every job he knew in his head about him, you know.
So that was him going around all the jobs all around?
Yeah, just paying them his week.
And did he carry a briefcase or anything?
No. His waistcoat pocket. But Lucy always kept, everything was put into one of them big books.
Big ledger or something?
Ledger. Everything that was in and out was recorded.
Right.
And I used to say, I don't live out of my waistcoat pocket, you know. I live out of this ledger that was in the office.
Right. I mean, Lucy was his right hand.
Lucy was just unbelievable. Yeah. Hugh worked in the office at home.
Hugh Lawrence?
Right, Hugh Lawrence.
Right.
That was another big resentment. I wanted that number, but anyway, that's another thing. But I remember being in one time, they were pricing this big job, wherever it was, and they were all going through the bill of quantities and adding and subtracting everything up. And the dad was sitting there with an envelope or with a wee piece of paper, a jotter and a pen, and how much the final price was going to be X amount of pounds. And he had written down, he was within £20 of the, you know. And he was never past fifth class at school.
Yeah.
But he had great books and everything like that, you know.
He obviously had a great understanding for every aspect of the job.
He was deadly altogether.
Yeah.
I met a fellow, Paddy's Wig, and he was in the building trade, and he was talking about Paddy and about the company and all, and he was saying that he worked with different contractors in the showing, and the thing that would be, what kind of a job did they do? Would the Cunninghams approve of it? You know, this was the thing because most of these guys worked for my father at some stage or other, you know, and everything had to be just right. This man from Marnmore, Patsy Sweeney, was telling me that he worked for my father. They built some kind of a convent or something down in Leitrim. And he said that my father came round on his weekly thing and they were just finishing, himself and Lullaby was finishing hanging these big oak doors. I never saw this, John. The big, big hinges and big oak doors on it. And my father went over to look at it and he said, So he handed your man half a crown and put it along the ground under the door. And it's passed. It had to be just right. The width of a half crown from the door. Right. And your man they couldn't get over that. And when my father was leaving, one of the boys said to me, "You're not going to leave us there." Whatever he called it, some tool. My father laughed away.
Do you remember any of that?
Oh, I do, surely. I remember Father Brown being there, surely. In fact, Marlene and me had a photograph taken by Father Brown. He took us up the Lille Road with our school bags. And I still have that photo somewhere or other.
I think I've seen it.
I'm sure you've seen it. But the funny thing is, there was never a camera in our house when we were young. All them photos was taken by Auntie Kay. The aforementioned Auntie Kay. Right. She had a camera home with her from England. And any photos you see of us as a family when we were, maybe 7, 8, 9. There's a famous photo. It was taken in our backyard of my grandfather and my grandmother. It was the day that Enda was confirmed. And it was Auntie Kay took that one.
Right.
And she took another one down below Charlie Garris there. Myself and your father and Paddy, Marlene, and a big dog.
Right. You were all pretty dapper as young men.
Oh, yes.
You liked your clothes and all up the part.
We were. Should we not? That's the worry. There's a famous photo of me and William James
I've seen that one.
In Dublin. Well, there's a story to that jacket that I was wearing. It was a tweed. It was a Donegal hand-woven tweed, and there was a shop in Dublin in O'Connell Street in Dublin called Best's, and this thing was in the window. And I spotted it one day, and I lusted after it. I just had to have it.
Was this a white coat?
White Donegal tweed.
Right.
And I didn't ask the price of it. £5 it was. So I went away
and
thought
about it. Was that big money?
That was a week's wages for labour at the time,
Right.
But eventually I came in with my £5 anyway. And I couldn't wait to get home to show off my coat.
Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the flowers are dying. 'Tis you must go and I must bide. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, and all the valleys hushed and white with snow. 'Tis I'll be there in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so. And if you come and all the flowers are dying, and I am dead as dead I will may be, you'll come and find the spot where I am lying, and kneel and say an Ave there for me. And I shall feel, oh soft you tread above